A massive fire erupts in displaced camp in Hodeidah, causing serious damage. Yemeni government demands to stop Houthi escalation against Yemenis. Engineering teams dismantle hundreds of Houthi landmines in Ma'rib. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Abir Ali. A massive fire erupted one displaced camp in Al Khawkha district yesterday. Thousands of tents were damaged. The governor of Hodeidah visited the affected camp and urged the international aid agencies to intervene. This report has more details.
Yemeni civilians left their homes to escape the fire of the war ignited by the Houthi militia to the displacement camps. Their tents were destroyed by the burning fire. A huge fire erupted in Al Jasha camp in the coastal district of Al Khawkha. Its fires devoured dozens of tents that were sheltering dozens of displaced families. The flames destroyed more than 60 primitive tents built entirely of the grass. The winds of the area contributed to the spread of the flames to neighboring houses, the cost of which was paid by nearly 100 displaced families in Al Jasha camp, the largest displacement camp in Al Hodeidah, which is inhabited by thousands of families displaced by the war.
Most of the families escaped the fire with the family members, leaving everything behind: their clothes, furniture and food supplies. Although they left all the valuables in the fire, but they were extremely grateful for being able to survive and protect their children and parents.
They fled from death to the unknown. They left their built homes in search of safety in the displacement camps, and overnight a fire disaster struck them, destroying everything they had inside their homes built of straw, palm fronds and tents made of cloth. Hundreds of families here have become homeless, waiting for organizations and institutions working in the humanitarian field to rebuild a real camp that will protect them from the disasters of fire, as well as support them with food and emergency shelter.
We are all in the streets now. We have nowhere to go to. We ask the United Nations to help us during this hard time. How are we supposed to live now in the open with no shelter? We've been suffering for a long time and no one is listening to us. We call on the international organizations to help us find a solution.
The suffering of the displaced in Hodeidah is exacerbating day after day in the displacement camps as a result of the war, especially those whose areas were covered by the unjust Stockholm Agreement, which allowed the Houthi militia to establish themselves in them, so its people were forced to leave them by force to pay a heavy price in the areas of displacement.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its condolences to the Egyptian government of a bus accident in the city of Mansoura. The incident resulted in a death and injury of a number of citizens. Yemeni expressed its sincere condolences to the families of the victims, and it wishes for a speedy recovery for the injured. The United Arab Emirates condemned the Houthi attack on a commercial port in Shabwa. The UAE Foreign Ministry said that the Houthi attack on the port is a dangerous escalation and appellant challenge to the international community. The statement noted that the attack represented a disregard for all international laws and that has to stop. The Yemeni government has called on the international community to pressure the Houthi militia to push them to the negotiating table. This came after the recent Houthi escalation in different fronts. The following report has more.
Despite Houthi threats and attacks on local energy supplies and oil export ports, the international community is certain that there are no military remedies to the Yemeni crisis, and there is no alternative to backing global efforts to restore the shaky truce. The Iranian-backed militias are relying on time to secure new economic, military, and political victories. Yemeni observers, on the other hand, feel that a time limit must be imposed in order to reach an agreement to renew the truce. They suggest that the organization is attempting to build a state in the north from which it would target the rest of Yemen and carry out Iran's agenda in the north, including threatening neighboring nations and international trade lines. With the most recent attacks on oil export terminals in Hadramaut and Shabwa, it has been apparent that there is rising worldwide outrage over the actions of the militias. The Houthis' reluctance to de-escalate their military operations has prompted Western nations to adopt a new strategy to deal with the group if it continues its terrorist escalations and ignores the calls for peace. Renewing the ceasefire shouldn't be the final aim, according to Yemeni scholar and academic Faris al-Bail, who has also argued that it must be made clear what the envoy has in mind for the period following the ceasefire. He stated that the truce was one of the confidence-building measures between the parties and their capacity to cope with negotiation, indicating that it was merely a prelude to what followed. Bail proposed that the international community adjust its approach to dealing with the Houthis, noting that it has numerous weapons at its disposal to exert pressure on the organization, including financial prosecution, disciplining militia commanders, and restricting their movements. Mahmoud Al-Tahir, a researcher from Yemen, suggested that if the Houthis continue to reject negotiations, the UN envoy should make clear that he is unable to set up talks. He added that the UN has many tools at its disposal, including the ability to declare the group a terrorist organization and form an international coalition in accordance with Chapter 7.
Gulf Center for Human Rights called on the international community to ensure the safety of 4 abducted journalists. The center stated that the Criminal Appeals Division held a session within the case of 4 journalists whose lives are at risk. The court did not consider the request of the defense team, which indicated the lack of the specialization of the court to consider their case. On the first anniversary of the assassination of journalist Rasha Al-Harazi, many journalists in Taiz held a symposium entitled Absent Justice and an Undying Truth. The symposium comes as an advocate for the case of the journalist Rasha Al-Harazi, who was assassinated in Aden last year. The journalist called on the international and local community to announce the result of the investigation to the public opinion.
We as journalists and colleagues of martyr Rasha Al-Harazi arranged this symposium to convey our voices to the public opinion. Through this event, we are calling the international community to rapidly investigate and hold the killers of this journalist accountable. Today, we hold the memorial of our colleague Rasha Al-Harazi as the first female journalist martyr. She was killed brutally by these terroristic groups, and all accusations are against the Houthi militia, which threatened her husband before the incident.
Houthi mines continue to pose a real threat to Yemenis across the country. In Ma'rib, the engineering team of the government forces have dismantled around 500 Houthi mines in Harib and Ausailan districts. The following report has more.
No conflict is more hazardous than the minefields laid down by the terrorist Houthi militia all around the nation, lurking in people's paths and threatening to detonate upon contact. Without any maps to signal the landmines' locations, their danger will persist for years, and Yemenis will continue to dread venturing outside. Yemen's reefs and valleys are riddled with death machines that have claimed hundreds of lives, and even animals were not spared their wrath. Here, the engineering teams of the Massam project are seeking to extract the Houthi remnants of anti-personnel and anti-vehicle mines planted by the Iran-backed Houthi militia and disguised as shrapnel. In Harib and Ausailan districts, the technical teams were able to survey large areas, including the passenger line linking Safar and Harib. They managed to extract 464 anti-vehicle mines.
This area is riddled with anti-vehicle mines. It is packed with lift stocks, and Bedouins usually frequent these sandy terrains. It is also host to many of the trees and greenery that the lift stocks feast on. Following Massam's demining efforts, the Bedouins felt safe enough to settle in this region and raise their cattle.
Mines installed by the Houthis impede civilian mobility in Ma'rib, Al-Jawf, and the route connecting the 2 governorates. The landmines are planted indiscriminately, surrounding residents from all sides and leading to regular fatalities. Due to the numerous Houthi mines that have been put there, Harib is one of the most dangerous areas for civilians to live.
In Harib district, following the Houthis' departure, citizens and local authorities were surprised to find their farmlands, homes and schools were infested with landmines. Yemeni citizens cannot comprehend the sheer cruelty that comes with planting said mines. This militia claims to seek what is in Yemen's best interest while giving them a taste of death, whether by using mines, unexploded ordnances or drones. Their crimes know no boundaries.
After nearly 8 years of conflict, Yemen is regarded as one of the nations with the highest concentration of mines, although the precise number is undetermined.
Coming next in the news. The United Nations says that fuel imports have increased in Houthi-controlled areas.
That we know we need a planet preserved for generations to come, an economy powered by clean, diversified, secure energy sources, opportunities unlocked through innovation and cooperation to deliver equitable, more prosperous, more stable, and more just world for our children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless you all.
Fulfilling what we agreed to in Glasgow in relation to speeding up process of decarbonization, greening several industries, in particular the industries who have increased energy, our energy intensive industries.
We have all the technology to make this happen and move fast. That we will need new technology solutions. We will need more innovation. So push for everything what you want to have.
We hope that this COP27 will be the threshold that we all cross to remove all doubt that we are, as a world, serious about saving the planet for the children.
On the negotiating front, COP27 has a mandate to fulfill regarding the mitigation work program, and we encourage all parties to rise to the occasion and deliver a robust program that represents a contribution to bridging the mitigation gap.
Welcome back. The United Nations announced that the fuel imports to Houthi-controlled areas have increased by large. This refutes the Houthi allegations regarding the government delaying fuel shipped to enter Hodeidah port. This report has more details.
The United Nations Verification and Inspection Mechanism for Yemen said that fuel imports to Houthi-controlled ports increased by 500% during October. The UN data came to contradict false reports published by militia leaders who claim that fuel prices are increasing in their controlled areas because the Arab coalition to support legitimacy is holding fuel ships. In its monthly operational analysis, UNVIM also said food discharged in October 2022 increased by 13% compared to the 2021 monthly average. This comes as Houthis continue to reject extending the UN-sponsored truce for the second month in a row. The United Nations Verification and Inspection Mechanism said in its analysis that there was a 500% increase in fuel discharged in October 2022 compared to the 2021 monthly average. Further, the UN office said that during the past month, and even though the truce was not extended, there was a 13% increase in food discharge compared to the 2021 monthly average. It said 350,000 tons of food were discharged in October 2022, compared to 310,000 tons in October 2021. The figures confirmed the false Houthi reports about the siege enforced on the Hodeidah ports under their control. UNVIM, which is managed and operated by the United Nations Office for Project Services, said that also in October, 9 fuel vessels were permitted from the coalition holding area. 10 landed and 9 discharged their cargo and sailed during the reporting month. The operational analysis also showed that in October 2022, food vessels spent an average of 2.4 days in the coalition holding area, 1.7 days in anchorage and 6.2 days at berth. Food vessels therefore spent 14% less time in the CHA, 21% more time in anchorage and 30% less time at berth, and 30% less time at berth compared to October 2021. The report said that a total of 3,050 containers of food, medical supplies, and equipment, including tools related to COVID-19, were shipped to Hodeidah ports.
Members of Democratic Leader in Michigan elected a Yemeni national as a state representative. Ibrahim Ayyash will be the first Muslim to hold the position of majority leader, and he said it's time to get back to doing real work for the people. Ayyash is serving as executive director of the Chamber of Commerce and a progressive democratic social and political activist. The Yemeni government affirmed to activate the monetary policy tools to achieve economic stability. This came during the meeting chaired by the Prime Minister with the Bond Committee to discuss the outlook for the economy and in the light of the implemented government reform plan. The meeting discussed domestic and foreign public debts and controlling the budget deficit. Economic experts reveal that the Houthi militia is the largest beneficiary of external remittances. The experts said that the remittances are among the most important and highest sources of national income for Yemen. They called on government and exert pressure on the United Nations to transfer their main office from Sana'a to Aden. Participants in a workshop demanded the necessity of cancelling the Prime Minister's decision to allow residential activities in the free zone. The participants stressed the necessity of restoring the areas and reactivating its role to supplement the national economy. Yemeni farmers succeeded in producing ginger after a unique experiment, the first of its kind in the history of Yemen. Local sources said that Al Jafariya Directorate succeeded in planting ginger and was able to supply the local market with 35 tons, in addition to hundreds of tons of coffee crops, grains, and fruits. The United Nations Development Programme conducted a teacher training course for teachers from Aden and Lahj governorates. The program aimed at equipping teachers with the latest trends in teaching methods. This report has more.
Proceeding from the importance that education poses at the level of the individual and society, especially in light of the current developments, which require improving the quality of education and providing the facilities to advance the educational process.
The vocational training program is being held in both governorates, Lahj and Aden. It consists of 25 participants in Lahj and 25 as well in Aden. And this initiative is financed by the European Union and under the supervision of the local ministry. It aims generally to create a healthy relationship between the teachers and the students,
involving civil society to contribute to the advancement of the reality of education and upgrading it to the required level is what this training program aims at, and to create a solid relationship between the school environment and teachers in determining the students' path, directions, and future aspirations according to the training courses received by the participants in the program.
My first impression about this program is that it had variety. I am happy to be a candidate for this program as we are in female schools excluded from these issues.
We attended this training program and I feel that we benefited a lot, and most importantly, we acquired the methodology of directing students on the right track to decide on their careers.
A development project that is a path of hope to chart a constructive way for the future of the promising generations and make them armed with science and knowledge to enable them to draw their future, enhance their skills, talents, and creative abilities to achieve their ambition.
The governor of Al Hodeidah chaired a meeting to discuss the needs of those affected by the fires in Al Jasha camp. During the meeting, the head of the committee presented a report on the measures taken by the committee to provide the necessary needs for the displaced. The legislator confirmed the organizations will intervene to provide the necessary needs such as food, shelter, and household appliances. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. A massive fire erupts in displaced camp at Hodeidah, causing serious damage. Yemeni government demands to stop Houthi escalations against Yemenis. Engineering teams dismantle hundreds of Houthi landmines in Ma'rib. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali. Thank you for watching.